Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Thai Expat Daily Show. I'm your host, Kira Mack, and today we're kicking off an exciting new segment called Thai Expat Talks, where we dive into the unique experiences and stories of expatriates living here in Thailand. Our first guest in this series is someone who embodies the spirit of adventure and social contribution. Please join me in welcoming Greg Egan. Greg hails from Sydney, Australia, but he now calls the beautiful city of Chiang Mai his home. Not only is he an expat navigating life in Thailand, but he's also sharing his journey and insights with the world through his popular TikTok and YouTube channels known collectively as the Traveling Social Worker. Links are all down below in the description to his channels. So now it's all done and dusted, let's just jump into the interview. So thank you for joining us, Greg. I'm excited to hear about your journey and insights on living here in Thailand. So let's just jump right in. So Greg, can you start by telling us a little bit about what brought you to Thailand and how things have been going so far?
Well, I guess COVID in a way brought me to Thailand because I got annoyed at actually being in lockdown in Sydney, Australia for a couple of years. And
It was
so I started researching about, well, where would I like to go as soon as the borders open? And initially I came here on holidays, but I was also researching about whether I wanted to actually move here or not.
Oh, okay, very good. And had you been to Thailand before COVID or
Oh, yeah, no, many times. I'd been
many
here a lot.
times?
I'd traveled a little bit in Southeast Asia,
Hmm.
and this particular country always appealed to me because I like the culture. Philosophically, I was more Buddhist in connection, and so it sort of connected with me a bit of the culture as well as
Oh,
the
very
food. I
good.
just generally like the food.
Yeah, I saw that from your TikTok. Very good. So, can you tell me a little bit about your background?
Well, I'm a social worker by trade, so a mental health clinician. So I spent a lot of my time in government jobs, non-for-profit jobs, working in mental health teams. I also had my own private practice for many years on the side, which COVID then turned into a online mental health
Yeah.
service,
Hmm.
and that's what gave me ideas about being able to travel and work because now I now had an online business. So
Oh, okay,
yeah,
very good.
yeah.
And
But
how's
I
that?
grew up. Yeah, sorry.
No, no, continue.
Yeah, but I grew up in Sydney in the Blue Mountains, west of Sydney, which is a little bit like where I live now, Chiang Mai, all surrounded by mountains. And yeah, it was pretty good middle class lifestyle, pretty much in the Blue Mountains there. Mainly working in Sydney and not really traveling much outside of that, apart from when I had my holidays. Yeah.
So you basically waited for the borders to open and then you made that jump in, yeah?
Yeah, I was on the first plane out as soon as the borders opened
It
in
was,
November.
yeah, it was quite the tricky time back then to get into Thailand. Did you find it difficult getting in, or did you have to go through some of those different schemes they had? I think, what year did you come? Was it 2021 or?
Yeah, I came in November 2021, so all I had to do was have the COVID vaccines, and I just had to have one night of quarantine when I first
Okay.
got here. So I stayed at some fancy hotel at Terminal 21 behind there, and the Grand Day something, I forget its name, but it was a really nice hotel. And yeah, it was just 24 hours, and then I just basically booked a hotel after that for a couple of weeks just to see what was going to happen from that point.
Very good. So, what were your expectations before moving, and then how did it compare to the reality of it?
Well, I guess expectations. I'd watched a lot of YouTube, listened to a lot of TikTok. I had read a lot, gone on a lot of Facebook groups. I'd listened to a lot of stories. So my expectations, I was open to anything. That's what I'm sort of getting at. So I didn't
Hmm.
really have any clear expectations. I was just going in there to see what would happen when I arrived because I felt like I'd done enough research before I actually got here about
Yeah.
what could go wrong, what could go right, what you could do here, how you could survive here. The ex-project manager in me made me do a lot of research.
I think that's similar for a lot of expats when they move here. They kind of get into that, how can I sustain myself when I get to Thailand? And will it be very different than, okay, I've been here a few times before on holiday, but, is it going to be completely different when I start living here as well? So I think I had a similar experience to you. So what kind of cultural differences stood out to you the most when you first arrived, would you say?
Um, I guess because I met Anne pretty quickly, my current wife,
Hmm.
and when I met her, I was immersed straight away amongst the Thai people. But one of the things that surprised me instantly was how interconnected the families are here. and like second cousins, third cousins, everyone knows each other. And
Yeah.
in Western culture, we're lucky if we know our first or second cousins, and yet everyone was just so interconnected. And Anne was always on the phone to relatives from all over the place, down in Ubon
Mm.
Ratchathani, where she comes from, and Royette, those areas. And yeah, I was just really surprised at the connectivity within family here
Oh, very
and
good.
how strong the
I,
bonds were.
yeah, I found the same thing as well. Family is kind of the top of the pyramid when it comes for Thai people, and yeah, very much so. So, how have you adopted any Thai customs into your daily life?
Well, I guess not in daily life, but we tend to go to the Buddhist temples a lot. Like, we tend to do a lot of ritual stuff. We tend to do a lot of prayers. We interact with the Buddhist monks a bit and sit down and have a bit of a yarn. So we do a lot of that. But outside of that, don't really do a huge amount of cultural custom
Oh,
stuff.
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I'm very much the same as well. So, what's
Yeah.
the most surprising thing you've learned about Thai culture?
Well, the surprising thing is when you get out to the villages, is within the rural areas. Like, I go out to Ubon Ratchathani a lot and Royette, and everyone freaking knows everyone, and everyone knows everyone's great grandmother, everyone's cousin. It's kind of
Yeah.
like you walk down the street and everyone's going, "Oh, hi, haven't seen you in ages," and yeah, and that's really surprising, like the connectivity within the communities, but also how they treat a Westerner when you go into those villages. That was kind of interesting experience for me. Like, every time I've gone into those villages, everyone does whatever they can to look after me, and I find that very surprising. And it's a little bit, you feel a bit weird because everyone's trying to look after you. Mm.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I had the same thing as well. My wife's hometown, where she's from, and it's the very same thing. When you go there, everybody knows everybody else. You're like, is this village just made up of family members, and stuff like that? But they're always, they're always very concerned though. How's the foreigner doing? Is he okay? Is he adapting to what's going on? Yeah, and they do treat you a little bit differently, but in a positive way as well. It's
Yeah,
not
yeah.
it just like, oh, maybe we should change something up, or is he okay going to be here like this? I found that a lot too, which I think is a good thing as well. They notice that there's a difference maybe in culture as well, and trying
Mm,
to make you feel more comfortable in it. I think it's a great thing too.
mm.
So what has been your biggest challenge since you've moved here,
Well,
would you say, if you've had any, of course?
Well, I guess the challenges has always been language, and though I haven't picked up much of the language, maybe I've been a bit lazy because Anne's been doing everything behind the scenes for me
I
and
think that
done that
happens
one.
to a lot of us.
And Thai women, when you're in a relationship, are very caring, want to look after you, want to do everything for you, and all that sort of stuff. And so that has been. But when I'm out, just the technology makes that language barrier easy. Like, if I needed to
Mm,
use Google Translate or something like that. But the areas I've travelled, though, the only place I've found a real language barrier has been places like Royette and Ubon Ratchathani. But
yeah.
in Chiang Mai, where I live, I don't really come across that. I'll go into a shop and half of them speak English to me.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, and I don't seem to, and even in Bangkok, I found a lot when I lived there as well. A lot
Mm.
of people speaking English.
I think it's because they're, I guess, more touristy towns, I guess, with a certain tourist population. I've had the same experiences as yourself. My wife is my translator most of the time, and but it makes us get lazy, I think, too. So
Yes.
we kind of like, well, do I really need to learn so much? I have my wife, she can do it. And also I live in Phuket, so I mean, it's a huge tourist island. So I mean, so many people speak English, so it does make you.
Mm,
I guess I think if I lived somewhere out in the middle of the country, I'd probably forced to learn a lot more than I do. And
yeah.
yeah, it's significantly different. So, what advice would you give to someone considering moving here to Thailand?
Uh, I would say do your research before you come here. Like, really, watch a lot of YouTube, get on a lot of Facebook groups, um, read books, whatever you have to do. Listen to podcasts, whatever you have to do. Learn about it. Learn about the cost of living here. Learn about the various jobs here, the visas here. Also, maybe travel here first before you settle here. Don't just make an impulse decision to, like, jump on a plane and say, "Okay, I'm going to live here now." You really want to understand the place and maybe research Phuket, research Bangkok, research Chiang Mai, Hue Hin,
Mm,
Ubon Ratchathani, and get a feel for the different locations before you even decide to move here.
yeah.
And then if you do decide to move here, come here and live in an area for a while before you settle down.
So would you recommend people to, like for people who want to come here and let's say work, okay? I mean, do
Mhm.
you recommend Thailand as a place to work in, or should you have maybe some form of income outside of Thailand to sustain it? What's
Mhm.
been your experience with that, would you think?
I would say it depends on the type of lifestyle you want. So if you, of course, English teachers, if you're working for, if you're a teacher by trade and you work for one of the big schools, you're going to get a pretty good income and live quite comfortably. But if you're going just for a standard, like you've got a university degree and you're going to teach English here, then you're going to have to subsidize it in some way, like with some language schools or something on the side for extra money. But you're still going to live a reasonable life, like 35, 40,000 baht. I guess
Mm,
you could still live a middle classy type life here, and a lot
mm.
of people do live comfortably on that. But yeah, really having a side gig is a way to go if you want a comfortable life that you can just jump around and move around. Mm.
Yeah, very good. So have you built a social network here in Thailand or any?
Well, I guess when you're in the sort of YouTube community, the TikTok community, you tend to make friends by default. Like I've had people that are either been watching my thing saying, "Can we meet up for a beer?" Or I've had people that are vloggers as well, happen to be in the area and go, "Let's catch up for dinner." And so I've made a community connection there. But also, I've just been out in town walking about and just met people and sat down and had a yarn. Like Anne worked in a backpackers hostel here for about nearly a year. And while she
Mm,
was working there, I used to sit in the backpackers hostel and just talk to people coming and
yeah,
going in the evenings after I finished what I was doing. And so I was meeting people that way. And so I've met a few expats just by default. Like I needed one who was a justice of the peace to sign some legal documents. And I found there was an Australian here that did that. And then I found another Australian who I needed some help with something else I was working on. And so as you ask around, you start to find people amongst the community. And so I made a few connections that way, just getting
very
around and
good. Yeah,
talking to
very
people.
good.
Mm,
Ah,
yeah.
excellent. So how has your career or work life changed since you've moved to Thailand?
And there's the cat.
That's
It's
all
kind
right.
of like, uh, yes, the work life balance. I reckon it's got better. Like I was doing the hamster wheel at home, and
Mm,
literally coming home every evening. I had long trips to work every day, an hour, hour and a half each way. I was just coming home, sleeping, rinse and repeat. Wake up, go to
mm.
work the next thing. Now these days. I might do a bit of online stuff in the morning, a bit in the evening, and then I've got the middle of the day where I go out and just get some street food, or I go out to one of the local restaurants here on Chiang Mai. It's just so cheap just getting around. And in the evenings, I finish what I'm doing at a reasonable time where I just get out and maybe go for a walk in Old Town, or I just go for a drive somewhere in the evening, or I just have a really good balance. And on Saturdays, we go on a road trip somewhere different everywhere because I have
Oh,
a
that's
Thai
excellent. Yeah,
driver's license here. Yeah.
good. Very good. Yeah. I was going to say, so what would you say? I was going to say, I'll cut this part out because I totally forgot my question. So, I was going to say about work life balance. I think even from my perspective in Thailand, when I worked in Ireland, I work in hospitality, and one of the big things I found was even the difference in the hospitality industries between like Europe and Thailand, where in Ireland, you'd be expected to come in at, 2 p.m. in the afternoon and finish at 4 a.m. the next morning, And here in Thailand, that expectation isn't there, but it rarely ever happens. There's a lot more, even in Thailand, there's a lot more structure to how they work, I found, in hospitality businesses, And I found that there's a much better work life balance here in Thailand, which is something that I've
Mm,
grown to love. And I think the same
yeah.
thing you found as well. I'm not half as stressed as I used to be from working in Ireland. But I think that applies to a lot of expats here, which is maybe one of the reasons
Mm.
why so many expats move to Thailand as well.
Yeah, yeah. Like even my parents say I look a lot more calmer, a lot more relaxed, a lot more happier since I moved here,
Yeah.
and and I didn't even see that, but they see it in me, just in the way
Mm.
I've changed being here. Mm.
Yeah, yeah. I guess, yeah, maybe you don't, but other people can and it's your demeanor and the manner in which you behave and talk, and people notice that.
Mm.
So what's your favorite thing about living here?
Um, I don't know, just the variety. Like you can go down to the beaches of Phuket and have some fun down there. You can travel amongst the islands. You could go out to the middle of nowhere into the rural areas and where they've got not as much technology, totally different lifestyle. Or you got the mountains here, a totally different lifestyle. There's a different cultural feel everywhere you go,
Mm.
and everything you do here. And the food's so different in the different areas as well.
Yeah, very
And
different. Yeah.
yeah, it's just really different here. Yeah. Mm.
So, on the subject of food, right? What would be your favorite dish so far here in Thailand?
Um, I tend to eat a lot of chicken kopau, I mean, pork kopau, sort of stuff. And so I'm eating a lot of that. But up here, I'm also becoming addicted to the noodles, the various noodle dishes or the
Uh,
tom yum and things like that. But in Chiang Mai, I've also got the chicken
yeah, it's
kosoi.
very popular.
Yeah,
Yeah.
which is really nice as well, and I like that. So, but I'm lucky that my partner's a good Thai cook, so she can pretty
Ah,
much cook anything I ask for. She'll
yeah, yeah.
cook it.
I've seen your TikToks, especially. You do an awful lot of restaurant reviews, but I think one of the things that strikes me about Chiang Mai is just the sheer amount of restaurants, but like the really
Mhm.
good quality up there as well. There's an awful lot of really good restaurants in
Mm.
a small city, I suppose. When I compare it to Phuket, I would consider Chiang Mai to have better food. I've been there a couple of
Mm.
times, and when I've been there, I found that the restaurants there are just really really top compared to what I find here, which I find here are very, very tourist orientated, I guess. And Thai food isn't
Mm.
cooked maybe the way it should be cooked a lot of the time. So it's a
Mm.
little dumbed down to the tourists. But when I've been in Chiang Mai, I found the food there and the restaurants, very, very good. So
Mm.
I have a question. What's a typical day like for you in Thailand?
Well, I usually get up pretty early because I'm working off Sydney time, so I'm usually up at 5 or 6 a.m. doing some stuff. And but then by about 11 or 12, I am off to the one of the local shops, getting some of my noodles for breakfast, or going somewhere just to get something, sit outside and just relax at one of the local cafes, restaurants, or something. I'm addicted to my iced coffee, so I go hunting for that. And Chiang Mai has a good coffee culture because they grow the coffee beans up in the
Mm,
mountains, and gee, they have good coffee here. And but they're
I
not always
agree.
good at making hot coffee. You got to look around for that. And but yeah, by the evening, I might finish what I'm doing about 6 p.m. In the evening, and then I'm off. Maybe go for a bit of a walk, go exploring in Old Town, or just maybe catch up, watch a movie, or maybe we just go into like Central Airport Plaza and just walk around and just chill a little bit in the evenings. But Saturday's always a road trip, generally speaking.
Very good. Lovely. So what's your favorite place in Thailand to visit? If you had a place now, where would it be?
Um, that's a hard one. Like, I do enjoy the peace of Isan, but I enjoy the variety of Chiang Mai, like the food culture, the mountains, the beautiful scenery up here. But the beaches, I guess, if I want to just go for a holiday, you're going somewhere like your Phukets, or just the coastal areas. I just like going to them. Hue Hin's nice and quiet. I did
Mm,
enjoy traveling around there and exploring, but Bangkok's for all your restaurants and your nightlife. If
yeah.
I want nightlife, I'm going to go there. If I want a calming connect with nature, it's going to be Ubon. If I want the beaches, I'll probably head down to Phuket, down that way somewhere. But there's a lot of islands I've still got to explore. Mm.
Yeah, me too, actually. Me too. I have quite a few to explore. I was just recently in Pranbury, south of Hua Hin, and I have to say it's a wonderful part
Mm.
of the world. Like, highly recommend it. Anybody I've met recently, I've told them just go there. It's, a fabulous part of the world, right on the ocean, but a lot more relaxed and not as busy as a lot of the tourist places that you go to. So these kind of places are
Mm.
pretty nice. So you were saying that you've traveled to other parts of Southeast Asia. So how does Thailand compare to those other places that you've been to?
Well, I've travelled all over Malaysia, and I find Malaysia a little bit risky in some areas because you've got a lot of crime gangs in places like KL and Penang, and so I don't really like the lifestyle there. Food culture's okay, but lifestyle, it's not for me, Malaysia. Vietnam, I can't really eat a lot of the food there for some reason, and so I like sections of Vietnam, but the overall lifestyle, I don't think I could live there long term.
Mm.
the only other place I could live that I could compare it with would be Indonesia, where I could potentially live in Indonesia or Thailand. If I was choosing between two countries, it would either be Indonesia or Thailand. And I do like some
Yeah.
of the slower pace of things in Indonesia, and I've travelled in the up towards Jakarta as well as all down the Bali area. So I haven't just been in the tourist areas there.
Okay, very good, very good. So looking back, would you have done anything differently before you moved here?
Um, Not really, because I've sort of enjoyed the learning. I've enjoyed the growth.
Hmm.
I've enjoyed the fun I've had, and just exploring a little bit blindly sometimes. And,
Yeah,
just
sometimes the
going
best
out
way.
there and yeah, throw yourself into the culture, throw yourself into the country, and just get to know things and don't be scared. That's
Yeah.
I guess that's one of the things. I came here with that open mind. Just jump into everything and see what I can find.
Obviously, you were saying you're building a house, and I think you just recently got married as well. Do you see yourself
Yep.
staying here long? Obviously, you plan to stay here long term, I presume.
Well, yeah, because we've got a farm project we're working on out of Newbon. We've got, I think, 2 5-acre blocks out there that we're working on, and one of them we want to do some fish farms there, and we've got a rice farm that we want to turn it into rotating crops. So we've got some projects we're working on down
Oh,
there,
that sounds cool. Yeah.
and yeah, and then we've got our main house up here in Chiang Mai, where my stepson, who's 16, is attending one of the private schools here,
Okay.
and he's got his own ambitions to follow a similar profession to me. He's looked at me and said, "I like your profession. I think I
Yeah.
might go." And he wants to up me. He wants to become a psychiatrist,
Oh,
and, so he's aiming higher. But yeah, so we will be here long term. I can't see myself returning to Sydney. I found too much peace and harmony here, and people may think I'm looking through rose-colored glasses, but no, I'm not. I've actually really nutted out what I like and don't like about this place, and I'm just sticking to what I like and what I'm interested in, and focusing on that growth. And me and Anne had some clear projects we're working on.
yeah, I think I've often thought about, once in a while it always jumps into the mind, would I go back home or could I live at home? And sometimes I think about it and I compare what my life would be like, let's say in Ireland versus here. And it's immediately like, no, we're not going anywhere. Staying here, staying in Thailand, because it's just two completely different things. And although I think my wife would love to live in another country, and experience something like that, the idea of going back to, I guess, the life previous that I left is something I've never been able to think about. That's why I can see myself being here, for the rest of time, hopefully anyway. So what is the funniest or most unusual thing that's happened to you here in Thailand as an expat?
Well, I don't know. You get a lot of funny experiences here because you've always got only in Thailand sort of things happening here. And but I saw a really funny thing yesterday, and I put it up on TikTok. And
I think I saw that.
It's gone a little bit viral, and all it was this guy on his bike. I think he was either, I don't know, affected by something, but he's dancing away on his bike, and he's got a custom sidecar on his motorbike, and 4 chihuahuas or something on the side in the same uniforms. And I'm just laughing because I couldn't stop laughing watching this particular thing yesterday.
My wife
And
saw
I'm
that
just
too. I was showing her that. Yeah, I was showing her that yesterday, and we've got 2 chihuahuas, and she was looking, that's what we need for the dogs so we could take them out. I was like, no, that's not what we need for the dogs. Like, they need to walk. But I saw that. It was very funny, actually. But that is the kind of stuff you see in Thailand that you're not going to see anywhere else in the world, It's this just random stuff, or a family of 5 on a motorbike,
Yep, you see that a lot. Or a car that's so overloaded with hay bundles that it can tip at the slightest corner.
Some of the things I've seen recently, you're just like, how does it even happen? How did they get away with it? But, I guess it's just life here and people have become accustomed to seeing it,
Yeah.
So if you had to describe Thailand, 3 words, what would it be? Or what would they be?
I'd say amazing's one of them because there's just so much variety here. I would say it's peaceful. Like, you can really find harmony here if you find your niche, I guess. And the amazing, again, food culture. It's got a real food culture, this country, and every area of Thailand's got a different food culture, whether you're in the south, the north, Isan. It's just, so I'd say it's about the food, just the variety of all the landscapes and everything like that. Yeah, it's just really interesting.
I think the food is something that is just so high up there in Thailand's like positive things that it has, and especially the variety, as you said, compared to no matter where you go in Thailand, every region has its own kind of culinary cuisine. It's so different too. Like as you said, up in Chiang Mai, they're into their noodles and they have different things. But if you go to certain parts of the country, they have their own type of curry and how they make it, and it's very, very different. And then if you go to, let's say, the northeast, there's influences from other countries that come into their food there as well, and it's very diverse compared to other, I think, Southeast Asian countries as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is.
Yeah,
It's very
because
diverse.
I was in Cambodia a couple of years ago, and I found the food not not even close to the standard of what Thai food would be.
Yeah.
Very, very bland and very kind of. That cat has done so well during this entire interview.
Mm. No,
It's
that's
very,
male one.
very impressive. The fact that you can't pay for stuff like this.
Yeah,
So,
this one's sleeping and the other one's meowing.
oh my God. Anyway, what's a common misconception about living in Thailand that you'd like to debunk?
Well, that it's a third world country is a big one. Like, that was my
Mm,
parents. Why are you moving to a third world country? And one of the reasons why I did YouTube was to show them that it's not a third world country, Mum. I've seen so many Porsches and rich and people with money here. It's just not funny. And technology, the standard of housing, the standard of private medical, it's all up there.
mm,
And
mm,
so, third world, it's definitely not. There's areas of Thailand that you would consider sort of third world, but Thailand as a country as whole is no, it's not. That would be
mm,
the biggest misconception,
mm.
I would say, about Thailand.
I agree with you too, because I mean, you can go to certain parts of Europe. For example, I travel to Portugal a lot, and you can be on the west coast in Lisbon and Porto, and even down in the south. But if you go into the center of Portugal, there's areas in there that you'd be like, where am I? This is this Portugal? Is this Europe? It's barren, but it looks very run down. The same thing, exactly like you say, is when my parents came to Thailand to visit the first time. They've been here 3 times now. Uh, I think they had the similar view. Oh, it must be, kind of like a lesser country, let's say, in terms. But, like a couple of days in
Mm.
Bangkok changed all that very quickly. Like my dad's mouth was, on the ground when he was in shopping centers. He was like, they won't have anything like this in Ireland, nothing compared to it. And even when, nothing compared to the shopping centers, that they have. And even just the busyness of everything. But, like everything is there. You can get everything, and he was kind of like, no, this is not a third world. This is not a lower. This is at the same level, And I think you're right. That is a common kind of misconception, I
Mm.
think. So we did one of them, but we're going to do them again. We've got
Mm.
3 quick questions for you. So favorite Thai dish, you have to name one.
Oh, fish. If I was going to go fish, I'd go
Dish, dish,
snakehead. I like the
dish.
taste of snakehead.
Oh,
Oh,
dish,
dish.
dish, not fish.
Fried snakehead's nice. Yeah, not fish. No, but yeah, snakehead. That's one of the fish I'm looking at breeding. But no, I would say that Kopow is something I'm eating a lot, and I'd say that's one of my go-tos. Is my fried egg on the pork on the rice. I would go to that if I'm wanting a hearty breakfast.
You're making me hungry now. Beach or mountains?
I like the mountains for a lifestyle, beach for a holiday. Hmm.
Okay. Night market or a high-end restaurant?
I'm more likely to go to the night markets on a regular basis and eat street food.
Yeah, I agree with you. It's much more fun. Much more fun.
Mm.
Greg, thank you for taking the questions today and joining us on the Thai Expats Daily Show. It's been my absolute pleasure to have you with us.
Not a problem.